Like, I'm still checking backpacks in high school. Like, let me see your backpack. Open your backpack. It's still there. Where's your mother? Like, what's going on? And it's like, no, you're in high school. Like, with my students, I try to make them self-sufficient, independent. I don't care if you have a disability. You're going to be independent. We're going to work on this all year until you can do what you got to do. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not in kindergarten.
So thank you guys. I'm actually naming this episode The Other Side of Academia. And because people don't often like listen or hear from the educator's perspective, it's always the educatee that is focused on. So I have on this panel 3 lovely, amazing human beings who are in the world of raising our next generation, in addition to the parents. So I have Francesca, who I've known since high school. I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourselves, but right now I'm just gonna do the main part. Prissy, who I've known my entire life, and Bronco, I've known since college. I don't know whoever wants to go first. If you can talk about the genre of academia you're in, what grade you're teaching, if you're teaching, if it's a different form of education. Just go ahead and do a quick introduction.
My name is Priscilla Joseph. I teach K2. I've been in BPS for about 16 years now. I teach the first in the nation Haitian dual language program in kindergarten.
I'm Francesca. Been doing this for about 10 years, a little bit longer. Started in elementary, now I'm in high school. I work with kids with special ed, mostly with autism disorder. So.
My name is Clinton. They call me Bronco. I've been teaching for like 13 years now. Right now I'm teaching 7th and 8th grade, but I've taught 7th, 8th, 10th, 11th, 12th. But 7th and 8th is my primary focus at this moment. Math.
Oof. You got 7th and 8th graders and math. Oof. So my first question, I'll start it off with that. Why education? Why academia?
I'll say for me, I was an accountant at first, but it was just too boring. No one likes waking up in the morning, but waking up in the morning, going to the office in a cubicle, I used to be tired as hell as is, and found myself falling asleep. The money was better, obviously, at the beginning. And then, so I was like, my mom and my mentor were also educators. So they always talk about how the summer's off and all these different holidays. Mm-hmm. And then doing the auditing, there was a busy season, which was like from February to about June-ish.
Like right now.
Yeah, but you work like 14-hour days, 6 days a week. But it was on salary. It wasn't like per hour. So I'm like, wait a minute. Mathematically, it wasn't going to add up. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to just take my little pay loss, get my summers off. And then from there, I enjoy seeing the kids grow. Like they're fun. There's no duplicate day as an educator. So that part made me just stay within it.
Prissy, I see you double dutching in right now, like.
Because you know what, I'm like, okay, let me go, not go. I didn't start off in education. I honestly didn't know where I was going after college. So I got a job as a paraprofessional. My mom was like, take the job, and I was like, I don't want it. I don't want to work with kids. It's not my forte. And in the midst of, being a paraprofessional, I got to visit a lot of different schools because I was a traveling para. So I visited many different schools and many different grade levels. And I thought to myself, I can do this. Why not do it? So when an opportunity came to go to one of the teaching programs that offered a master's, I hopped on it. And I got accepted into the program, and I've never looked back since. So I would definitely say God had a plan for me that I did not know. Mm-hmm. He set everything up for me. So now I am where I am now.
That man always got a plan.
Mm-hmm. So I always knew I wanted to work with kids, but originally I was supposed to be a pediatrician. Yeah, not happening. Being Haitian, like you gotta be a doctor or a lawyer. So I was like, all right, I'll be a pediatrician. I'll still work with kids. And then I just wasn't feeling it. Yeah. So then I ended up going into social work, and then I was like, I'm not feeling that either. But my mom was in banking, and then she went into teaching. And she was like, I have a job for you. You know, you can do after school program. I was like, all right, whatever. I did it. And then I fell in love with the kids. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll be a teacher. And I went to school and ended up just loving, you know, creating like all those, you know, things for the students to do. So I was just like, I think I'm just gonna stick here for a little bit and see what I can do, because you can be creative and enjoy the job at the same time. So that's what got me.
Yeah. See, I've never been a teacher, but I definitely worked in after school programs for about 10 years. And I agree with all of you. It's never the same thing every day. Like every day is different. But that relationship you build with your students, and then 5, 6, 7 years down the line, when you run into them and they remember who you are, like that level of satisfaction just hits so different. I want to ask, what's the biggest difference that you notice in your students versus when you guys were students? Because I can tell you right now, I be seeing some of these kids walking down the street or in public, and I be like, what is happening here? Like, how old are you? Why do you know this? Like, even with my nieces and nephews. So in your everyday venture, because I feel like being an educator can be a venture, and it is an adventure too. What's the biggest difference that you've noticed?
The kids never forget you. I literally just ran into a student the other day. I had her in K1. She's now in 4th grade.
Oh.
And it's great hearing, you know, how much they've grown up. Sometimes this generation is a little bit too grown than from what we were used to. They're a lot grown. But I will tell you, if you really love these kids, they will never forget you. I walk through sometimes, and I'm like, who that? I don't remember. And they remember everything about you. And you are leaving a lasting impact on these students.
Yeah.
They need love. They need affection. And they just need someone that they know is going to be there for them.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I really love about the kids, is seeing their growth.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm running to students that I had so long ago. And it's just like, wow, like you'll be surprised how much you inspire these kids and their livelihood and the decisions that they will make in life.
Yeah, I agree. I think half the part, you know, most people struggle with teachers not because they don't know, are not knowledgeable. It's just more or less the classroom management. And once the kids sort of realize that you all in for them, classroom management part is easy because they don't want to disappoint. Some of them want to be cool, some want to be social, just be, you know, build a hierarchy within their friends, but they don't want to disappoint. So once they realize that you all in with them, they'll self-correct each other. And like, so then now you can do the teaching part. But if they don't feel like you half-assing, it's gonna be a long school year.
They can read you. These they smell the fear.
Yeah.
For me, it's more so like I went from like the younger kids to high school, and I was gonna go into high school. I was like, OMG, they're about to eat me. And then it was just like, they're great kids. Like, these are some really good humans that we're raising. And I think people forget that. Like, I was in high school once, and I used to do the same things that they did. So if I'm gonna be judgmental, they're just gonna be like standoffish. I have to be like, hey, I was there once, so how can I help? How can I assist you? Just knowing that your door is open for them, it's an open door policy, they're always ready to just learn from that educator who's there for them. And that's what they need, someone who they can just kind of like talk to, someone they can just kind of like feel comfortable with, but also respect.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they just need maybe like someone to just be like, hey, you're slacking, get yourself together. And they're like, all right, miss, you know, that's what they call us in high school, miss. Everyone's miss. So it's like, all right, miss, I got you. So it's like, yeah, you got to make me proud because like, so.
Yeah. Do you guys have a teacher in your past or history that you look up to and kind of want to exemplify that person in your, I guess, in your education system? You know what I'm trying to say. How you move, how you maneuver with the students. Do you have, like, when days get tough, is there a teacher that you're just like, yo, how would Mr. So-and-so or how would Miss So-and-so handle this situation? Or you kind of channel them to kind of progress through your day? Or if not, just how do you get through those?
Do you mean like a teacher friend or like someone in the past?
No,
like
someone who was your educator.
I don't have that, honestly. Growing up, I was always, I mean, it's like, I didn't have anyone who looked like me when I was in school.
I remember because we went to Fontbonne.
Even before Fontbonne, I went to St. Catherine's in Norwood. I was the only Black girl in my whole entire school. Yeah. So I was in like 6th grade. I had nobody who looked like me. Mm-hmm. So no, it's just like kind of something I guess I learned from my mother and looking at other teachers. But like growing up, nah. I had no one that looked like me. So I can't say I had someone that I'm like, oh, I'm like learning off of or using their technique. Right. So
I feel like for me, I wouldn't say I learned the techniques, but I do remember the feeling I felt around being these teachers. Mm-hmm. Like I literally run into my old English teacher a couple of weeks ago, and I ran to her and I gave her a hug from high school. Mm-hmm. I remember those teachers that made me feel comfortable, that I could talk to them, where you did not feel judged. And, those were the teachers that didn't look like us. Mm-hmm. Then when they say, come on, Priscilla, come on, you know better. And you're like, they always knew how to talk to you. And they never necessarily, talk down to you either. And I think people need to understand that these kids, no matter the age, they are not stupid. If you do not like them, they know you don't like them.
Oh, yeah, they do.
It's for them. And once they realize you are for them, they are not the same kids that everyone might try to portray them to be.
Right.
And I think it's really important for, these students, especially, to see people that look like them, mm-hmm. to see them in these roles, because it makes a huge difference.
Right.
Yeah, I would echo all that. And then I would say the ones that sort of held me accountable, the ones that like kept it real with me when I was acting crazy, put me in my line, put me in check, but also did it in a way that I knew it wasn't just trying to like belittle me to a degree. Yeah. But they made sure I knew I was doing something wrong. They told me I was doing something wrong. And when things were going great, we were great. But when I wasn't acting right, they made sure I knew exactly what it was. And then, just now being an educator, them seeing that you can have success from where we grew up at and still be a kid, but it's the way to go about it. You don't got to be a follower. You can still be who you are. Don't try to follow the masses, just to fit in. Right. And then it's gonna be a struggle. There's gonna be a struggle along the way. That's part of life. Mm-hmm. Just can't break and bend when things ain't going well. So I think just reiterating that message to them over and over again, letting them model it. Like, listen, okay, I know what you're going through. I know what neighborhood you've been through, what neighborhood you live in. So I can understand why you might be tired. I can understand why you want to sit at certain seats, because positioning matters where you're at, because you never know who's out to get you. So I think those things, being able to connect and relate, go a long way with some individuals.
No, that's real. And Francesca, you hit a very good point there of growing up and not having teachers look like you. I'm in that same boat where I don't think it was until college where I had a professor that was Black, and I was like, this exists? Like, I went to private school in Dorchester, but none of the teachers were Black. And if there was a Black teacher, she wasn't an actual teacher. It was like not necessarily a substitute. She kind of was just somebody's mom who would volunteer at the school, but she was not a teacher. I go to high school. I'm at Fontbonne. I'm in Milton. There were not one single, not even a light-skinned teacher. Like full blown blonde hair, blue eyes. Like we did not see it until I got to college. So I think like what Prissy said, it's important that these students see someone that looks like them. And like Bronco said, somebody who holds them accountable, because I think a lot of times and I look back to our childhood, a lot of these teachers weren't necessarily, the ones in my past weren't afraid to hold you accountable, because we were kind of like the straddle. I feel like this generation, they are so raw and transparent, and they kind of not necessarily are entitled, because I feel like that's a whole different conversation. But we were a little, and also being of my parents, some of our parents were immigrants. it was like, shut up, go to school, don't say nothing, don't talk back, you do your work, nothing like that. So if you felt like a teacher wasn't being fair to you, we didn't necessarily stand up to them. And there were certain students who did, and the teachers didn't correct them because then, oh, they're racist. Oh, they don't like us. And it's like, the teacher wasn't racist. They're actually just holding you accountable. But we didn't know how to receive that because you don't look like me. So
Right.
you can't know what I'm going through. So I think those were really great points to touch on. And I want to talk about parental involvement.
I'm sorry.
Now, Ramsey's is 17 months and he's in daycare right now. And I've had people who, I can see different, development in different kids. And I know that you cannot, you should not compare children. But I remember having a conversation with the daycare teacher one day, and she was telling me how much more advanced Ramsey's was than another student that she knows who's 4 months older than him, because Ramsey's already saying words, but I talk a lot. So I'm always talking to Ramsey's full sentences, stuff like that. And I genuinely believe that if the parent is not continuing what you guys are instilling in these children at school, then that's kind of where the disconnect falls. So how do you guys, like, do you know any of your parents? Like, how do you get, Jessica's getting, she is getting hot.
Because that is like, oh man. Woo.
Go ahead, girl, speak on it.
My involvement is so imperative in your child's education. And I feel like it's lacking a lot with our people. Mm-hmm. You do have those parents who are very, very, very involved and a little too involved where you're like, okay, borderline creepy, stop. But then you have the parents like, I don't even have a working number for you. Like, are you serious? Like, what's going on here? Like, why is there such a disconnect? Like, This is your kid. You're leaving your kid with a stranger. I'm not crazy or anything, but you're leaving your kid with a stranger for like a long period of time. We can't connect with you. Like, what's going on? And it's like, it's frustrating because it's like, it takes a village, like they say.
Yeah.
I can do my part, but if you're not doing your part, like, what are we doing here?
Right.
So it can be super frustrating. And, just with my son, like, he's not in school right now. He does early intervention because he has like a speech delay. But imagine them trying to reach me when he goes to group and there's no working number and something's wrong with him. Like, that's ridiculous. But that happens so much. And I don't know if like the other panelists see that in, the schools that they're in, but I see that so much and it gets me so mad.
Yeah, I feel like it also too depends. So with the earlier grades, sometimes you'll find a lot of parents are involved because it's, they're younger, they can't really speak for themselves. And then you'll get another group of parents that are like, I have to work. I have to work. They're immigrants. They're just trying to make their way through. Mm-hmm. So it's like, here, you take the kid. It's all you. They put all responsibility on you. And then you're like, no, I need you to help me here. And they don't want to hear it. Yeah. Most of the time it's, were they good in school? Were they bad in school? And then they're done with you. Yeah. But I find that a lot of the population that's coming in right now, and as Title I schools, we do get the students that that are less fortunate. We get the immigrants. That these parents' priority is to put food on the table,
keep the lights on, keep the water running,
all of that. And it's like you have to convince them like things have changed, or here in the United States, you need to be involved. You need to know what's going on. And I find myself teaching them how to be more involved in the parent involvement. But then you got some, you're like, hi, hello, remember me? It'd be nice if you would return my phone call. And it's like, sometimes you do have to kind of make like little threats just to get them to be like, hello. Or we have so many issues, like, whereas all my parents have my direct phone number. Mm-hmm. That I do. A lot of teachers are against it, but it's me giving them a window, like, just call me, text me, WhatsApp me, Class Dojo me. I give them all avenues. I found with my Haitian people, once they got WhatsApp.
Girl, I was about to say, you gave them your WhatsApp?
They're on it. And voice messages because you have some that are not, illiterate or don't speak the language. So we just try to create different avenues for them to try to reach out to us, but it's a lot of teaching them to what to do.
Right.
And it's just, honestly, it's just not their priority unless something
is wrong. I was gonna say, unless something's wrong, it's
and they tell me, I'm sure that you can just beat them. And I'm like, no, we can't do that.
I can't hit your kids now, ma'am. I can't. There's whole laws against this. Like, I can't.
So I find that like with the younger grades, it's a little bit different. I'm kind of curious on like, how is it in the older grades?
High school?
Yeah.
So high school, I work with special ed. So the special ed students can stay in high school till they're 22. And after they're 22, then they need to be put into like a special program, depending on the severity of their disability. High school, I feel like it's the same. You have those parents who like, we're communicating with you, we're talking to you, we're trying to send you information because your kid's about to age out. What are they gonna do next? And then it's like, nothing happens. And then you're like, well, on the day of their birthday, they no longer come back to school. It's not like the end of the year. So for me, I'm like, you're trying to get this child either ready for a program or college or some type of assistance, but the parents are not involved. And what am I supposed to do? Like, I've driven to parents' house before to knock on their door to be like, hey, it's me. Like, your kid's about to age out next week. What are you doing? And like, oh my goodness, I didn't know. I'm like, are you kidding me? How didn't you know? Like, they've been in the system since they were like, 5? They're 22 now. So how don't you know these things? Like,
right.
And like Priscilla said, you have those parents who just want you to kind of basically raise their kid for them. And it's like, I'm here to help, not raise your kid. I have my own to raise.
Yeah.
And it's really is horrible because I go to a lot of IEP meetings and there are parents who don't show up.
Yep.
So then when you don't get that service that you claim you wanted because you weren't there
or needed,
or you're trying to get IEP signed and they never sign it. It's in the backpack still. Like, I'm still checking backpacks in high school. Like, let me see your backpack. Open your backpack. So it's still there. Where's your mother? Like, what's going on? And it's like, no, you're in high school. Like, for my students, I try to make them self-sufficient, independent. I don't care if you have a disability. You're going to be independent. We're going to work on this all year until you can do what you got to do. Like, you're not in kindergarten. So, like, when they get mad about the IEP not having OT or speech or enough, and then they come down to the school because they're mad. Now they come down. I've been calling you for weeks. They come down. They're like, oh, this, that, and the third. And I'm like, honey, you never showed up to the meeting. Like, what do you want me to do? They're only going to get 30 minutes, not the hour you want. So, hey, be involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Oh.
Same thing.
Now, I'll say this, I'll echo everything they said. Only thing I would say too, I've learned over the years just to document everything. So when they start saying, well, such and such didn't do this, such and such, well, I'm like, listen, I tried to reach out on this date, and this date, got no responses. So then it now flips it back on them. So if something, the ball does drop, they feel a little bit guilty about it because it was on their doing.
Yeah.
We can only do so much from our end, but at the end of the day, the child is still their child. So you can do as much as you can as an educator or whatever, but if the parent doesn't follow through or, like you said, sign the paperwork, there's only so much one can do. But at the same time, I have a soft spot because gentrification is happening so crazy now in our communities. They're pushing the raising the rents, something stupid. So families that we typically serve can't afford that rent that they're charging. So they're getting 2 jobs, working Ubers, doing everything else to make ends meet. So they don't have the time to sort of answer a phone call that is very important, but they just can't pick up that phone because they can't afford to lose that job. So it's like they're doing so much. And then when the child gets home at like, say 3, 4, parent don't get home until 8, 9, they might get a how your day was, did you eat, and then got to go to bed, get ready for the next day. And that cycle just continues over and over again, especially as they get a little older and they can be more independent. Like when they get to like 11, they can start doing things on their own, making little sandwiches in the refrigerator, pizzas in the oven. Then parents really get less involved because now You can go do this on your own. You need what? You gotta get where? Who you going with? Just send me a text who you going with.
Yep. Put your location on. I learned that one.
Yep.
Oh. So we, you guys are in your flow. I really want to touch on COVID and the interruption of COVID. And I say that because my niece is 7, Gloria. Prissy, Gloria. And I've noticed that, clearly she's in, I think, 2nd grade now, whatever grade she's in. The year that they had with COVID, her going back to school, I see a different Gloria now than I've ever seen before. And I would love to hear from the teacher's perspective of how not necessarily just your curriculum was affected, how was your mental health affected during COVID and your relationship with your students and, your ability of getting, clearly we already talked about not necessarily being able to reach your parents, but how did all of that shift during COVID and then having to come back into normalcy?
For me, so remember, I teach math. So trying to teach math on Zoom was not cutting it. So imagine keeping math on Zoom when people are in their bed or with family members that's there, that distracting, or 4 of them trying to teach and listen at the same time. It wasn't happening. And then there's so many different apps now that you could put a problem in, they would just give you the answer. So I had kids that struggled math academically when we was in person. All of a sudden was getting all A's, everything right, 100%. And you can't say, oh, you're cheating. You just gotta be like, okay, good job. And so then we came back to school, you get social anxiety, you get the insecurities, because now remember, we've been in the house for a year and some change. So then people's weight fluctuated, people didn't know how to communicate with each other, and like all those factors factored in. And then if you wasn't part of that in crowd, you then had to figure out how do I get a part of the in crowd? You just can't go up to somebody and go talk to them because they're about afraid of COVID.
Yeah.
So that part was tough. Then academically, people were weaker because they haven't been in the classroom setting. They've just been in a room. So that was tough. I would say it showed kids how to survive to a degree too, because it made them realize like, okay, if you're really passionate about this, I got to figure it out. If I'm not, damn, what am I going to do now? I just can't give it up. Mm-hmm. I see some things coming back a little bit normal now that we are today, but it's still not 100%.
Facts. Prissy with the babies. How, please? Oh yeah, girl. Although shout out, the other day I was on YouTube looking for Haitian YouTubers for Ramses, and a Prissy came up on YouTube reading a book. I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, I know this voice, and then I'm like, wait a minute, that's Priscilla. And I literally, but like Ramses was like literally lost in the TV, and I had to send her a video, and I was like, look at you. But go ahead, girl. Please talk to me about YouTube with I say YouTube, Zoom with the babies.
It was
make your head itch.
Interesting. They're a lot younger, so they didn't know how to navigate through the laptops, which was a lesson within itself.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of issues. So it was like we were teaching a lot of how to do it.
Yeah.
And you had those kids that did get on time. There were some parents that was like, nope, you need to get on. And then we actually did lose quite a few students because there were parents that were not responsive to the point where, they had to check on the children's well-being. They had hired people to go find out where these kids were because we had no contact. So that was a big thing in the beginning of COVID, was getting all the kids and getting in contact with all the families. And then finding, what if they were okay. And once we got through that and we started to go on our schedules, it was hard because they're so young, their attention span was out the window. We really tried to make it really interactive, which is why we started to do YouTube videos. Like a lot of teachers started recording themselves, recording the lessons, and just giving them that time to kind of go back and forth and listen to it. It was really hard to kind of gauge what the kids were actually, or assess them because we couldn't really tell.
Yeah.
Because with them so young, unless there is someone there to really help them, it was like we were babysitting.
You were virtually babysitters.
You know, it was hard. And then we had to also pay attention to their attention span. They wanted at one point, they want us to do the full, 6.5 hours online. And the kids by noon, they were like this. They were upset. They were tired. And it was just tough overall for kids and the teachers, because it became very stressful, because it's like you still have all these requirements, and it's like I don't even know if the student understands what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And when we got called back into the school, it was like, it was crazy how the shift was, oh, our teachers are great, and then it was like, oh, they're being lazy. And we wanted to be in school. I don't think a lot of people understood that teachers wanted to be in school. We wanted our students to learn. I did not like the home. So once they said go back to school, I was like, yeah. And then you just notice the kids were very awkward. Their behaviors were, even now, you're like, huh? Like you can tell like there's some type of disconnection that we don't understand why. We're looking at the kids now that the COVID kids, whereas the school shut down on them. And now we're seeing that those same kids are displaying a lot of different behaviors. And we're like, oh, we got to remember, this is the COVID group. And that's a lot of discussion of what happened. Because we know that their benchmarks are not as high as they should be, which we understand. So they're, but we're also seeing like there's now, like my old class is like, they have a lot of behaviors right now. So now we're like, what happened, or how can we get these students back on track? Because you have to also remember too, there was a lot of, these kids do not come from the best homes. So them being stuck at home, there was more trauma. Some kids were just basically ignored. And you have to think about what are all these impacts that happened with these children.
Right.
And it is really hard to say. And I think now it gives us a whole nother like perspective on the students. Now you're like, this was a child that went out during COVID.
Yeah.
At home, what happened to this child?
Yeah.
And so now you're like, okay, how do we go back to refraining these kids to what school is, what it's like? Like the kids now, they're a little bit better. I would say with adjusting back in school, but it was hard for them. And I think like a lot of people don't understand, like, like they have no social contact. And when they came back to school, you had to stay 6 feet away from them. I had kids running to me trying to give me a hug. I took the hug. It was okay. And I wasn't supposed to, because I was not going to not hug a child. But there were people.
Because they take that differently.
Yeah. There were people that was like, nope, don't hug me.
Yeah.
All these things affect these kids. And I think a lot of people don't really understand that. And they want to play with their friends. They want to talk. They just, they can't. And it's to the point, like, mask on, mask off. I was like, if I'm going to catch COVID, I'm going to catch COVID. It is what it is at this point. I got to be here for my students. Because I got to make sure that they're successful. So we just kind of rolled with the punches and just try to get our instruction, try to hit all their needs and just do the best that we can. And keeping that throughout the grade levels. That's one of the things that we're trying to work on now, is bridging this COVID gap.
Yeah, you rolled with the punches, the kicks, the tugs, all of that. For Jessica, how was with you working with special needs students? How was that?
So COVID for me was just difficult for me personally, because I know you talked about like my own mental health. I had just had my son 4/15/2020.
Oh, okay.
I took no maternity leave, because I was like, okay, if I'm going to be home, we're on Zoom, like, why take maternity leave? Should have never did that.
No.
I have this newborn, and then I'm trying to learn this new way of teaching, and I'm like going crazy. Like, I almost lost my damn mind. Thankfully, his dad just was like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm just going to stay home. So he was taking care of him while I was trying to navigate Zoom. And I loved being home. I loved being home because, like, I had a baby. I was able to see my son grow up, something that I would have missed out on if I was in school and not remote learning, teaching, I should say. One of the things that I noticed in the high school kids was there are kids that never talked in class, and they were so comfortable with being on Zoom that they were like this whole different child. I'm like, wait, you know how to talk? Like, I've never heard you say one word in class. Like, what? Who is that? Where does that come from? And they were just, they weren't shy anymore. They were like able to just be behind the screen, be who they were. And that to me was like, wow. But then you had the student who was really, really good in class and they never showed up to Zoom. So it was like a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Right.
I loved teaching on Zoom because I love challenges, and it was a challenge for me to learn how to, you know, get my students involved and learning how to get all these like materials to kind of like bring them into the classroom, but still be at home and learn. So I was always looking for new ways, like to kind of just navigate around the whole teaching thing, because it was like, wow, if this is the new norm, how am I going to be able to help these students?
Yeah.
So I would be like, after school was over and we closed Zoom, I would be like researching, what can I do? What app? What can I do? Like, I was excited because I love to, you know, create things for students to learn. Like, it is in my nature to create. So for me, I was just like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I'm about to find this. I'm about to draw this. We're about to do this. We're about to do that. So I enjoyed it. A lot. I know a lot of people didn't like being home. I was one of the teachers who was like, I'll stay home. I'll teach from home. Like, and I even thought about looking for a job to work, you know, do remote teaching, you know?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the flexibility. I was able to use the bathroom when I wanted to.
You could take breaks when you wanted to.
My coffee while it was hot. Like, it was a whole different world, because when you're in the classroom, sometimes you forget to use the bathroom. Like, you're sitting there, you're like, oh shoot, did I use the bathroom today? And it's like, at the end of the day, it's when you're using the bathroom. So for me, it was like, it was chill. It was cool. As far as the kids, the students' mental health, for high school, I feel like there were a lot of students who were graduating during that time, like the seniors. So it wasn't the typical senior type stuff that they would have done.
Right.
I feel like they suffered a lot going from being a senior and then now you're going to be a freshman in college. Like, it messed with their mental health. Like, I don't know, for me, if I was in high school at this time during COVID and going into college, how I would react. I probably wouldn't go to college. Just having all that fear and anxiety and just like not knowing the unknown.
Yeah.
And having to they didn't walk across the stage. They didn't have prom. Like, they missed out on so much. So much as a senior, like everything. And it was just
the whole point of being a senior, like,
hey, you know, like, and it was just like, I remember delivering like diplomas in my car. And when people were doing like all those drive-through like ceremonies, it just was weird. And you're just like, I can't hug my student to say congratulations. What? No, like Priscilla said, if I'm going to catch COVID, I'm just going to catch COVID. But I was one of those people who was scared because I had a newborn.
Yeah.
But I still was like, you know what? I don't care.
It is what it is. Yeah.
You graduated from high school. Like, this is the greatest accomplishment, not at the right time, but like, give me a hug. Like,
I'm proud of you.
Right. It was just really hard, I guess, on the kids' mental health, especially the seniors. I feel like, especially them, because it was like, okay, now, like, nobody knows what school I got accepted to. Nobody knows what college, like, and we tried in our school to make it as normal as possible. We would do a lot of like the little meetings where it would be like, come drop by, drop in, let's talk about college, but it just wasn't the same. It just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
So,
another hard topic, funding. And we hear about funding all the time. Funding's always being cut. There's never enough money for whether it's extracurricular programs or programs that I feel like a lot of the students need. Funding is always being cut, but yet the expectation of your teaching always increases. How do you guys, and I know you guys have like a union that handles that, but how do you guys feel like it's being treated? Like, do you feel like there is fair funding, or, you know, the funding, do you feel like they treat, I guess, the balance? That's the word I'm looking for. Is there a balance when it comes to funding and the expectations of a teacher?
No. Sorry. I don't know about the younger, when I was working with the younger students, probably a little bit more, but the high schoolers, like literally I'm buying construction paper. Why am I buying construction paper at beach? Like I go to beaches and I'm like, what am I doing to myself? Like, thank God for Dollar Tree, because I'm buying scissors, I'm buying glue, and I'm really artsy because I'm always like, oh, we're going to do this for Black History Month. We're going to do this. And then like, oh God, here we go again. But like, I can't even find like white paper to make photocopies. So I don't know if the funding is going elsewhere for other things, but not to what I need for my students. I'm also someone who does like the GoFundMe. I'm also someone who will go out and just find my own money somewhere else. Like I don't even ask permission because I don't care. In high school, hygiene is a very, very big thing for students. And I started talking to my special ed students around hygiene and how they can, make their hygiene better. So I kind of just went out and found an organization that donates a whole lot of hygiene products for my students. And I also share with the other students in the building as well. But it's just like, why do I have to go out and go find all these resources when they're right here for us? Like, it doesn't make sense. So funding, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if there's a line in the budget for what you want. So I don't know.
For me, I just because I've been in BPS for so long, and I don't teach in BPS at the moment. I teach at a Catholic school, but because I've learned to sort of just expect there to be no funding, I don't really I make everything as bare bones as possible. And I'm terrible at being artistic, so my classroom looks like fucking real basic. So I'm mad. I need it because it's a gift and a curse. When the school year is over, take my little 4 posters down, my little pictures, and I'm out. It'd be no like you got
clean up is 5 minutes.
5 minutes, bang bang bang. Have a good summer. But for me, I just say, listen, as long as I got paper, I got pencils, and I have dry erase markers, I'm good. And we need some white paper for the copy machine when I got to make my photocopies. But those are my essentials. If I have those, I'm okay. The one thing I see always being lacking is the white paper. It's like, well, but again, as teachers, we just be running our copies and running our copies and running our copies. And I think about myself, but then to think about the business side of it, if there's 30 teachers in the building, we all making 4,000 pages, we'll make a page, we'll mess up. Yeah. We'll make a front and back copies, mess up. Oh, damn, I did that.
Gotta do it all over again.
Make another 120 of them real quick. Like, oh, as if it's nothing. But that paper's gotta be accounted for.
And that ink. I was about to say, and that ink.
But that's why Zoom worked. That's why Zoom worked. There was no ink.
Right.
Go ahead, Prissy.
So I think my accounting side just made me realize that part of it.
I felt like for me, I just buy. I like my classroom to look nice. I like for them to have, a lot of hands-on experiences. So I buy a lot of the stuff. I have done donor shoes where people donated money for me to buy stuff for my classroom. During the pandemic, a lot of people were very giving. So a couple of times with that. With the schools and their budget, it depends on the school. Not each school has the same budget. And it all depends on how that administration allocates those funds. So some they might say, oh, let's get all this copy paper. And then when it runs out, it runs out. We did have, the copy paper go out a few times. And, I was fortunate to have, parents donate copy paper to me. Or, I'm half hoarder. So I make sure I got my private stash ready to go. Because you just never really know. So and a lot of teachers, they're using their own printers, their own ink, buying stuff on Amazon. You're spending a lot of your money. And
hold on,
because I spend well over this amount of money every single year for my students because you want them to have good things.
Yeah.
These experiences, But, like a thing that's coming up into play right now with the funding is that we're losing so many students to gentrification, and a lot of them are being pushed out into the burbs. So along with those kids goes, the money goes. So, yeah, at my school and some other schools is that teachers are losing their jobs because we are not having the class number. It's becoming a big thing right now because we're losing charter school and we're losing the kids because they have to move out of Boston because it's different.
Right.
Which is a whole nother ball game that nobody's talking about. And a lot of these teachers, just happen to be people of color.
Coming special ed, they're opening more rooms. It seems like the special ed is they're just like bigger. It's just like getting out of control. Like the rooms that they're opening, there's all special ed.
But then what's coming with that is now they want more licensures for teachers.
They do.
Testing, because they're like, okay, they're switching everything. Okay, let's get these inclusion classrooms. Let's get these ASD, these autism classrooms. But now you have to go get another license, which requires money to take the courses. It costs money to take these tests. And now you want me, after I did everything I did, now I have to go get another license and go back to school just to maintain another job.
Yeah.
You're right.
A never-ending struggle, but y'all have the heart for it. Because I tell everybody, if I can't cuss at a student, I can't do it. I can't do it.
You can, but you don't say it out loud. You go. And
I can't. Listen, I don't even realize half the time when the words come out of my mouth. I just tell by people's facial reactions, and I'm like, oh, I said that. Oh, you heard that. My bad. I'm sorry. I am gonna wrap it up. I see Bronco's at his practice, and I told y'all it's gonna be an hour. So for starters, thank y'all for chopping it up with me. And then, like I said, I don't think that there is enough appreciation given to teachers and what y'all go through. And people do use y'all as babysitters. Like I think is it Jess Hilarious who made a joke one day. One of her little skits was like, my son's teacher said, he's acting up, is the problem at home? And she's like, he's with you most of the day. So if there's a problem, it's with you, not with me. Like, what is there a problem at school? So I think that the mental health of educators are often overlooked. I think that the appreciation is not given enough because you guys go through a lot. I mean, in reality, you do have our children more than we do. So it's like, if your child is bad, and I know people be knowing when they got a little badass kid, like I know they be trying to act like that. I know, So I think, and those are the parents that don't even appreciate y'all the way they should appreciate y'all, but that's a story for another day. I do appreciate y'all talking to me. I appreciate what you guys do every day. And that's all that I have. I mean, do y'all watch Abbott Elementary? I just want to throw that in there. Can y'all really, like, you favorite character?
I just got put onto it.
It is amazing.
I'm late to the party.
Favorite character? Or most relatable?
Well, she's not relatable to me, but the principal, she is, what is her name? That's like real administration right there. It was like, girl, you don't know what? You're over here TikToking and you don't even know what's trying to get the funding, but you ain't even spending on the school. What's up? Like,
yeah. You read it back, I'm like, oh, that's what's happening up there. Okay. Chrissy, do you watch it?
I just started watching it, but the principal, she kills me too. I'm like, this woman is a hot mess.
Yeah. And Bronco, you got put onto it, or you didn't watch it yet?
I'm only an episode and a half in, but I can tell I'm gonna be locked in.
Yeah.
Actually, I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's good. But then again, thank y'all. I'm gonna let y'all get back to y'all day, and I'll have y'all come back again because it'll probably be different topics.
I said to both of you all, enjoy it. Don't cry yet, but I know you think like I'm thinking. Our vacation's coming to an end soon, so enjoy it while you can.
No days off in March. No days off in March, y'all.
I know, y'all not free again until April.